Hi, this is Dr. Richard Ruling, welcoming you to the Total Health Channel. Thank you for being with us. Our topic for now is could Jonathan Cahn be wrong about something? The point is that I like his speaking. He's very authoritative. He has many fine points, but something's seriously missing in a couple points of focus that he has. And one of them is that about God's bringing Israel back. Uh, yes, God said that was going to happen, but it wasn't God that brought them back at that time. Because as I learned from another Messianic rabbi, that 90% of the people in Israel have no interest in their spiritual heritage. They just came for free land. And that's not a very good reason to come. It was not the UN's land to give the Jews. It may have seemed like it at the time, but that's the beast power of Revelation 13, and it's working against what God had intended. The point is that God is going to put a lot of people want to jump into Ezekiel 38th chapter about Russia coming down to the land of unwalled villages and the victory that God is going to do for them, but they're missing the previous two chapters, which begin in 3 dozen chapters, Ezekiel 36, 2 dozen verses, verse 24. God says, I'll take you from among the heathen, gather you out of all nations, bring you into your own land, and then I'll sprinkle clean water on you. You'll be clean. I'll put a new heart in you and put my spirit in you, cause you to walk in my statutes and judgments, and you'll dwell in the land that I gave your fathers. Now and I'll be your God, you'll be my people. That's chapter 36. Chapter 37 shows the process of how we get there when dry bones come together after a shaking. That shaking is the earthquake that initiates the end times, and we haven't gotten there yet. We see the earthquake in Revelation 8, verse 5, when there's lightnings, voices, thunderings, earthquake, and the seven angels with the seven trumpets prepare to sound in verse 6, and the next verse is the first trumpet sounds, and all the green grass burns up. Well, I don't think that's literal, or we'd all be finished. If all the green grass on the earth is burned, we wouldn't need any more trumpets. The grains are grasses, wheat grass, oats, rye, things like that. So basically, it's not, and it has a spiritual meaning. In James 1, 9 to 11, it says, as the flower of the grass, so shall the rich man fade. And I believe that they're not dead, they're just not rich. It's about an economic collapse. When God attacked Egypt and for all the sins of Egypt, he attacked the gods of Egypt. They worshiped the Nile. Nile turned to blood. They worshiped cattle. Cattle got disease. They worshiped frogs. Frogs are everywhere. Money is our God. It's got to go. And the economy, have you noticed, is changing and is unstable. We're getting to a time when it's going to go. And I think it's not far away, but the earthquake will seal the deal for a fact that the reset for the elite is not like they're expecting, and they will be out in the cold if they're depending on money, in my opinion. So I just say, let's look at the Bible and see what it says, and God did not bring Israel back. He told them in Leviticus 26 chapter, verses 18, 21, 24, and 28, 4 times he said, if you walk contrary to me, I'm going to punish you 7 times over. And we have the period of time in Ezekiel 4, verses 4, 5, 6, when Ezekiel's asked to lie on his side 390 days, each day for a year, that Israel's in apostasy. And so if they were in apostasy for 390 years, times 7, punishing them 7 times over, is 2,730 years. And the point is that Sennacherib came in 722 to take them into exile. 722 from 2730 is 2008. But there's no year zero when Messiah was born. So really it's 2009, and in that year, the Pope comes to Jerusalem. He was assigned to flee. And the early Christians understood that. When they saw the Roman army, they got out of Jerusalem, fled, and they were spared the siege by Titus. And if Jews were to accept Messiah's warning, they could be spared now. But they have never counted the sevens like the 77s of Daniel 9 that point to Messiah in the 69th year or 69th week of years. So bottom line is they're in store for a big disappointment and rough experience because they have a history of not counting the sevens. They didn't let the land rest on the seventh year. They didn't count the sevens to Messiah, and now they didn't count the 70 the sevens for the 390 years that they were in apostasy. So three times and you're out. Three strikes and you're out. Maybe, I don't know, but it's not going to be that way. And I don't see any clear messages from Jonathan Cahn about what God wants to do in Ezekiel 37 and 38. 37 specifically is about dry bones coming together after the shaking in verse 7. And in Ezekiel 37, verse 16, 17, or 18, Ezekiel's given two sticks, one for Judah and one for Israel. Judah were the two tribes that I believe today represent the Jews, and I believe that the two sticks that can be put together are Jews who accept their Messiah, and for Christians, those who accept the law of Moses with the statutes and judgments. That's what Elijah does, is to restore all things in Malachi 4, verses 4 and 5. Remember the law of Moses with the statutes and judgments? Behold, I send you Elijah. And so I believe we can be part of that, God's team, the Elijahs and Moses. In Revelation 11, verse 3, he says, I will give power to my two witnesses for 1,260 days. That's 3.5 years. That's half of the end time. And they have the power to shut the heavens and turn water to blood. That's Moses and Elijah power. And when they finish their testimony after 3.5 years, the beast ascends. And he has power 42 months. And then it's all over. Though the 7 years coming are going to drive people either toward God or away from him. And hopefully we've learned our lesson and are going to go towards him and say, help us to live well. And it has a series of, if Elijah's going to restore all things, I think it must include 7 topics like the 7 seals of Revelation 6 that have a contextual link to truths that have a 7-fold emphasis in the Bible. I'll give you a couple examples, and you might want to get a book that explains more of them fully. But the second seal is the red horse that takes peace from the earth with a great sword. Well, when God made a covenant with Israel, in Exodus 34, verse 10 and 11, he says, behold, I make a covenant, and it's a terrible thing I'm going to do with you. I'm going to drive out the Canaanite. If he would do it for them, he has to do it for us. And I believe he's going to take us to the land of the covenant because it says in Galatians 3:29, if you are Christ's, you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. So that's where the two sticks come together. We, 10 tribes of Israel, they had a false center of worship, if you remember, in Dan. Jeroboam didn't want them going down to Jerusalem and getting sympathetic with the two tribes down there. He wanted them, so that the false center of worship in Dan, Christians have a false center of worship today. Sunday came from the papacy, the Catholic Church. And God foretold it in Daniel's 7th chapter that the little horn power was diverse or different. It persecuted the saints, Protestants, who protested the papacy, and it sought to change times and laws. Yes, Constantine made a Sunday law because he was a Rosicrucian. He worshipped the sun god. And the Pope went along to get along, and he said, yeah, well, Christ came out of the grave on Sunday. We can do it. We'll worship then. Well, no biblical evidence or support for that. They just claim that it's apostolic following. Peter was the first pope, but Peter was married. Why don't the popes marry and the priests, etc.? Peter was not the first pope, and there's nothing in the Bible that supports what they think is the Lord's Day. The book of Acts has only one reference to first day of the week, and 9 references to Sabbath. 3 of them say every Sabbath, when Paul was preaching, etc. So The day of the Lord really reference, or Lord's Day. Lord's Day is an allusion to day of the Lord in the end time, and that's when John was called to be a prophet in Revelation 1. He saw the scenes that were coming, day of the Lord. It's an extension of night of the Lord in Egypt when God judged Egypt. He in Exodus 12:12 he said, "I will execute judgment," and verse 42 says, "It is night of the Lord." Well, as day follows night, the end time period is going to be bigger than that, probably for the whole world over a 7-year period. So hang on to your hat for what's coming. And dear brother Jonathan, I hope you will see the light before it gets too late for you. I like your messages, but it's not going to happen as you're expecting right now. Because Zechariah 14 says, "The day of the Lord comes, and nations will be gathered against Jerusalem to battle." And it doesn't say God is going to fight for them right then. It says the city will be taken, the houses rifled, the women ravished, half the city goes into captivity. And I believe God's answer is what he said in Amos 3:7 and 8, that God won't do anything without revealing it. And the next verse tells what he wants to reveal. The lion has roared, who will not fear? Well, what's that about? It's about Revelation 5:5. Christ is the Lion of Judah. And when he roars, Joel 3:16, and Jews, you can read your own book. Joel is in the Old Testament Hebrew writings, and it says, "The Lord will roar from Jerusalem, the heavens and earth will shake." And those Muslims are going to get out of there, okay? And that's when he's going to set up his kingdom after that, after he gets the Jews that don't want any Christians around, not interested in their spiritual heritage, out of there. That's how I see it. I could be wrong, but I ask you to read the Bible, see how it supports it, and you might want to visit a website, 3 words everybody wants, healthhappinessdestiny.com. And you have some interesting truths to see, but this book is about the 7 seals that we will need to make a covenant with Christ and be in his kingdom. I believe that we can be the 144,000 Special Forces team. In Revelation 14th chapter, verse 4, it says they're virgins, but the Bible is designed to explain itself, and they must be the wise virgins to get into the wedding, and not the wedding parable where you're snatched to heaven for wedding cake, shake, and milkshake, steak and cake, whatever. I think we need to understand the unleavened bread that is to be restored by Elijah's, and we can be there for him. So nice to talk to you, and please consider this. Visit again. We have different topics to cover, but thank you for considering this and sharing this with Pastor Jonathan, because time is impending when it's going to happen, I believe. In fact, Christ said, in Matthew, the 24th chapter, verse 36 and 7, "No man knows the day or hour, but as the days of Noah. And Noah entered the ark on the 10th day of the 2nd month." That was like last Sunday, okay? May 19 was the 10th day, counting from the new moon. And this coming Sunday, tomorrow, is really the day that we might expect big trouble, because Noah was in the ark 7 days before the flood came. And it won't be a flood of water. God promised it won't, but it might be a flood of illegal immigrants that follow the earthquake, and we might see an earthquake tonight. It's a possibility. We should watch and pray, be ready for the events. We're protected by watching. We don't have to kill lambs or eat bitter herbs. Those things Christ fulfilled them, and we don't need to do them, but he didn't fulfill the watching. He asked his disciples to watch with him, and if they had watched, they might not have run. They might have been better able to support him and help him, and things would have been better now if they had. My personal feeling is that if they had prayed and watched, they would have been spiritually strong enough to say to Christ, "Hey, we're not running. We're going to stay with you in the trial." And when the Jews accused him of tearing down the temple and building it again in 3 days, they could have said, "No, he's talking about his body. Come out Sunday morning. You'll see." If they had said that, the Jews could not have lied, and Pentecost could have, with witnesses attesting to the fact that they saw Christ come from the grave, they could have said, uh, that could have been the whole Jewish nation repenting at Pentecost and getting power to witness. And if so, the world would be much better today than with just 120 in an upper room afraid of the Jews. It was a lot of persecution, and it took a lot. It was not a good start. It was a start. Pentecost made it possible with the Holy Spirit, but we need. It could have been much better with the whole nation. That's what the intent was. That Christ announced His kingdom, and the disciples wanted to be on the left and right with James and John. Christ said, "Can you drink of the cup that I drink?" They said, "Yes." Well, He gives it to them the last night, but 2 hours later, when He asked them to watch and pray, fell asleep and ran. Not good. Well, hopefully we won't run. Let's watch and pray tonight, maybe, and God bless you. I hope that this will find things. And I believe this is the year when the Muslims are going to take Jerusalem. When Christ was asked about the end of the world, this picture from Daniel 8 of a ram and a goat is the vision at the time of the end in verse 17. And the ram has two horns that represent the kings of Media and Persia. But those two horns, Medes and Persians, are now Iraq and Iran. And we've done Iraq. Iran is next, and it has already attacked Jerusalem once, or at least tried with the 300 missiles and drones and things like that. So we're online for big events soon, and could be tonight. The other thing that I would say, God declares the end from the beginning. That vision there at the time of the end, it tells in Daniel 8, I'm not sure which verse, by the way, but the two horns get broken by the ram. And the first horn, if you go back to Genesis, the 22nd chapter, Abraham was tested to see if he would be willing to sacrifice his son Isaac. The Muslims think it's about Ishmael. And the question is, which is the true holy book? Well, the things that are unfolding in the Middle East prove the Bible is the true holy book because it gives details that the Muslims don't have any clue to, and even Christians today. But do you remember the fact that the ram was caught by its horn in a bush? George Bush caught the first ram, okay, the first horn, okay. And I see also in the second act, which you see in Daniel 8, that there's a great horn on the goat that makes the goat great. When in Bible times they would cut off a horn to blow through it for a shofar or trumpet, we should understand that, hey, God knows the end from the beginning, and the great horn could be the great trump, okay? And it says in verse 21 that the great horn was the first king of Grecia. Well, Alexander the Great was the first king of Grecia in the historical application, but the vision is at the time of the end, and it might be that Trump is not elected president, but he is king. Military may say to him when Muslims take Jerusalem, let's get them. And Trump will say, yes, let's do. And it will. I do not think we'll see Biden in there at that time. I think Trump is right about Biden's not going to last till November. I think for other reasons, his age, to say it politely, but other reasons as well. So anyway, that's it. Plenty to think about. And thank you for visiting. God bless you. Come back again, and maybe I will say, well. We'll plan on a free conference call sometime, but I don't want to say today unless if there is an earthquake, I will try to fix up a free conference call, and I'll put it in the phone number. You can call in if you want to for information or questions you might have. Thank you, and we'll see you later. Bye.